Right now, a standoff is escalating between the United States and Iran. And according to the report we're using for this explainer, it's quickly becoming one of the biggest threats to global peace. So, let's dive into a situation that's really defined by one very stark ultimatum.
15 days. Those are the words of the U.S. president. It's a dramatic and, a totally unambiguous deadline. The message is crystal clear. A deal has to happen in about 2 weeks, or the consequences, well, as he put it, could be bad.
And this, of course, forces us to ask the big question, the one we're gonna be exploring here. When you've got tensions this high and the language is this heated, are we actually watching the final countdown to a full-blown military conflict?
So, what does this 15-day ultimatum really mean? What's it all about? Well, the demand from the United States is for what it's calling a meaningful deal. But that word, meaningful, that's where this whole thing hinges.
For the U.S., a meaningful deal means one thing. Iran has to completely scrap its entire nuclear program, period. But for Iran, which has always said its program is for peaceful energy purposes, that's a total non-starter. So, yeah, you've had talks happening everywhere from Geneva to Oman, but this one fundamental disagreement has brought everything to a dangerous standstill.
But here's the thing. This isn't just a war of words. Not at all. As that diplomatic clock is ticking down, both sides are making some really significant military moves, basically turning these threats into tangible preparations for a fight.
Now, this slide really lays out the tit-for-tat escalation that the source material details. You've got the U.S. sending 2 aircraft carriers and a bunch of fighter jets into the Gulf. And then, in a direct response, Iran has fully deployed its missile systems. They're vowing to retaliate decisively and have even declared all U.S. bases in the region as legitimate targets.
And this quote from Iran's supreme leader, wow. It pretty much captures their entire position perfectly, doesn't it? It's a direct message of defiance to the United States, basically saying that for every piece of American military hardware you send our way, we believe we have a countermeasure ready to go.
And Iran isn't just talking. It's actively fortifying its key sites. I mean, look at this. At the Parchin Military Complex, which is a major research site just 30 kilometers from Tehran, satellite images are showing this massive new concrete shield being built over nuclear facilities. And then they cover it with earth. It's a really clear effort to harden these locations against any potential airstrikes. So, all of this, the sanctions, the threats, the military posturing, it all really boils down to this one central issue, this fundamental disagreement over Iran's nuclear program. Okay, so this is crucial. You've got these completely conflicting stories. On one hand, Western intelligence, especially from the US, has claimed for a long time that Iran secretly spent 2 decades trying to build a nuclear bomb. On the other hand, Iran has always denied this, insisting its goals are peaceful. And then right in the middle, you have the UN's own nuclear watchdog, which has stated it's found no evidence of an active nuclear weapons program.
The report from Arfa Khanum Sherwani actually brings this question up directly, drawing a pretty chilling parallel to the claims about weapons of mass destruction that led to the war in Iraq. The concern here, the one being highlighted, is that a similar story could be built again, where the nuclear program becomes the reason for a conflict, all fueled by intelligence claims that are really, really hard to verify independently.
Now, this standoff isn't happening in a vacuum. Of course not. The major global powers are all watching very, very closely, and they are definitely starting to take sides. It's turning what was a bilateral dispute into this incredibly complex geopolitical chessboard.
Over at the United Nations, China has put out a direct warning to the U.S., saying that any military action could just plunge West Asia into chaos. Russia is right there with China on that position. And at the same time, you have Israel, a key American ally, who many analysts, including in Sherwani's report, see as a central driver of this very hardline U.S. policy against Iran.
And that sense of imminent danger? It's becoming very real. We're seeing other nations react too. Take Poland, for example. They've issued a formal advisory telling all of their citizens to get out of Iran immediately. And let's be honest, when countries start evacuating their people, it is a very clear sign that they believe the risk of a real conflict is incredibly high.
So, when you piece all of this together, the ultimatum, the military buildup, the world dividing into camps, we are left on the brink. It really feels like the mechanisms that are supposed to prevent war are just failing.
The report from Arfa Khanum Sherwani actually describes the United Nations as being an inefficient body in this whole crisis, basically powerless to step in and mediate. So with no effective third party to try and broker some kind of peace, there just doesn't seem to be a clear off-ramp, no obvious path for de-escalation.
And so we come right back to this, a single number, 15. A clock is ticking,
And every single day that goes by without some kind of diplomatic breakthrough just brings the world closer to a potential catastrophe.
And that leaves us with one final, pretty sobering thought. The source frames this as a moment where diplomacy has just been pushed to the side and you have two heavily armed nations on a collision course. The question isn't just if something will happen, but what does the world even look like after it does?